In this video series, I will break down 22 Y Combinator rules that all startups should master. I'm going to go in depth into each essential Y Combinator rule, so stick around because you don't want to miss this next one.
You can't outspend Google, but you can outmaneuver them. As a startup, speed is your only weapon. My name is Arjun, founder and CEO of Doola, a Y Combinator-backed startup. Big companies have committees, and those committees have committees. You have a decision. You can pivot your entire business model in a week. Google might take a year to change a button because the committee has to review with the committee, which has to review to the committee that oversees the other committee. If you stay small, you can change direction the moment you learn something new. Let me give you an analogy here. Think of a speedboat versus a cruise ship. The cruise ship, Google, is massive and powerful, but it takes 5 miles to turn it around. You, on the other hand, are the speedboat. You're pretty small, but you can turn on a dime instantly, and that is the only reason you can win. I ultimately think that in startups, there's this overarching challenge of, can the startup reach scale before the incumbent reaches innovation? Now, what that means is, of course, you will not have the resources of a Google, but you can move faster. So moving faster means, can you attack a wedge and reach scale before the incumbent is able to be nimble enough to pivot and innovate to do what you're doing? Because you're innovating and reaching scale. And yes, the incumbent might have more money, but you're moving faster and getting to that point before them. I want to give an example here at Doola for how we've applied this. You first need to have a plan to know where you're going. Thomas Edison has a great quote that vision without execution is hallucination. And then also, if you don't have a vision and you're executing, you're a rudderless ship. So I like to keep those two analogies in my mind of, you can execute better than anyone, but if you don't know where you're going, you're a ship going in circles, or you're a marathon runner who decided to run the marathon, but you ran backwards. So technically you ran 26.2 miles, but you didn't finish the race. Or you can have the best vision in the world in strategy, but if you don't execute, it's quite literally delusional. So at Doola, the way we think about this is, every year we set our 10-year vision. We then work backwards to what is our 3-year plan. We then work backwards to setting annual priorities. From there, every quarter we have a process where we determine our objectives and key results, or our rocks. The rocks are the key priorities we focus on each quarter that we believe take us to the annual goals. And then every week we have meetings where we review our rocks, we mark if they're on track or off track, and we review our measurables or key performance indicators. Now, I share all of that because within that system, as a startup, every quarter we have a built-in system to decide, like that speedboat, should we pivot on a dime? We have our annual goals, but we can take into account the market. And because we're a team of less than 100 people, it's much easier to align and point people in a slightly different direction than it would be for a big company to do that. So my point in sharing this is that having systems doesn't mean you can't be nimble. You need this combination of both. Because if you have the vision and you have the traction and you can pivot on a dime, that is when the growth happens. That is when the startup reaches scale, which is ultimately what I want you to achieve. That is rule number 15. To see the full set of 22 rules that make up the Y Combinator Pocket Guide, watch this video next.